You know, when we think of a great company, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it some larger-than-life CEO, a product that just changes everything, or maybe that classic story of a dramatic overnight transformation? We all love the idea of the lone genius or that one miracle moment, but what if that whole story is just plain wrong? What if the very things we tend to celebrate, the charisma, the massive strategic shakeups, the relentless focus on cutting-edge tech, are actually the things holding companies back from true sustainable greatness? That's the big disruptive question at the heart of Jim Collins' massive research project. And this slide really just lays it all out, doesn't it? The research for Good to Great basically flipped popular business wisdom completely on its head. So instead of those celebrity saviors, they found these quiet, humble leaders. Instead of some big revolution, it was a slow, steady, evolutionary process. This whole explainer is about unpacking these surprising and honestly game-changing truths. Now, to get a sense of just how rare this whole thing is, just look at this number, 11. Out of nearly 1,500 companies on the Fortune 500 list studied over decades, only 11 made the leap from just being a good company to a truly great one with sustained results. And we're talking about beating the market by an average of 7 times over 15 years. Just 11. That's it. So what was the very first thing that all 11 of these companies had in common? Well, it wasn't what they did, it was who was leading them. And let me tell you, it wasn't the kind of leader you'd expect to see on the cover of a magazine. They were what Collins and his team called level 5 leaders. And what's so fascinating here is the paradox at its core. These leaders combined this deep, genuine personal humility, like a complete lack of ego, with an absolutely ferocious, unwavering will to do whatever it took to make the company great. It's a really wild combination when you think about it. They were incredibly ambitious, for sure, but all of their ambition was pointed at the company, not at themselves. They weren't show horses. They were plow horses, just quietly and diligently getting the work done. And the results? Absolutely extraordinary. But the people themselves seemed, well, pretty ordinary on the surface. This is probably the best way to understand it, the idea of the window and the mirror. When things were going great, the level 5 leaders looked out the window to give credit to their team, to external factors, even to good luck. But when things went south, they looked right in the mirror and took full responsibility. The leaders of the other companies? They did the exact opposite. Okay, so let's move on to the next big idea, because it builds right on top of this. If you have the right leader, what do you do next? Well, the myth says you need some super complex, multi-layered strategy. The reality? It was shockingly simple. It's all based on this ancient Greek parable. The fox is cunning, right? It knows a little about a lot of things, and it chases all these different targets at once. But the hedgehog? The hedgehog knows one big thing, and it does that one thing perfectly. Every single one of the good to great companies were hedgehogs. They found a single, simple concept and just focused on it with relentless consistency. So how did they find that concept? They found it right at the intersection of these 3 circles. First, they asked, what are we deeply passionate about? Second, and this one is so crucial, what can we be the absolute best in the world at, not just pretty good at? And third, what's the one single metric, what profit per X, that best drives our economic engine? That sweet spot, right where all 3 of those overlap. That's the hedgehog concept. And here's the key takeaway on this one. The hedgehog concept isn't just bravado. It's not a goal or a plan you just make up. It's a deep, fact-based understanding of what your organization has the potential to do better than anyone else on the planet. It's something you discover, not something you just declare. And finding that deep understanding requires a very specific mindset. It was named after Admiral James Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. He noticed that the pure optimists, well, they didn't make it. The ones who survived were those who could balance this unwavering faith that they would absolutely prevail in the end, with the discipline to confront the brutal, ugly facts of their daily reality. All right, so you've got the right leader, and you have the right, simple concept. How do you actually implement it? Again, the myth is that greatness comes from some single revolutionary breakthrough. The research found the complete opposite. I want you to picture a giant, heavy flywheel. That first push, it barely moves it an inch. But if you keep pushing with persistent, disciplined effort, always in the same direction, it starts to turn. A little faster, then faster still, until its own momentum becomes this incredible, unstoppable force. That's exactly how these transformations happened. The great companies were so patient, just building momentum on their flywheel. Meanwhile, the comparison companies, they were stuck in what Collins called the doom loop. They'd launch some big new program, get disappointing results, and then just lurch in a completely new direction, always searching for that one miracle moment. All that chaos just killed any chance they had of building real, lasting momentum.
This quote from the research really says it all. The transformation was just a cumulative process. From the outside, the breakthrough might have looked sudden and dramatic, but from the inside, it was just the result of years and years of disciplined pushing on that heavy flywheel.
So what does this all mean when you put it together? What's the big takeaway from this really deep dive into what separates the good from the truly great? Well, the conclusion is both incredibly simple and ridiculously powerful.
It's really a clear roadmap. It all starts with disciplined people who are guided by those level 5 leaders. That then allows for disciplined thought, confronting the brutal facts to find your hedgehog concept. And that incredible focus is what enables disciplined action, the consistent pushing that builds your flywheel until it achieves breakthrough momentum. Now this is one of the most interesting and counterintuitive findings of the whole study. You'd think becoming great would be way harder, right? But the research found that the alignment, the clarity, and the momentum of a great company actually make it easier to run. There's just less wasted energy, less chaos, less of that constant managing of people. Everybody is aligned and pushing in the same direction. And that all leads us to the final, and I think most provocative question. The research proved that greatness isn't a function of being in the right industry or just having the right circumstances. It's a conscious choice, and it's followed by disciplined thought and disciplined action. So the only question that's really left to ask is, what choice will you make?